You've been telling us that this fight is going to happen, that this event is going to happen. Now you have an official main event, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. I mean, I could go a million different ways with this, but I think the most broad way to start it off is how did we get here? How did we get to Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson on April 18th?
Obviously, everybody knows that the Khabib fight fell out. You know, Khabib, and I could go on for 10 minutes telling you how that whole thing fell apart, but the reality is that's nobody's fault. Every day when I got up, the rules changed. Every day. Things were shutting down, things were closing down. You know, many people thought that this would be impossible for us to pull off. I am always of the mindset that nothing is impossible. We'll get this figured out. When there's a will, there's a way. And he got caught up in Russia. It was a total mishap. You know, we all made mistakes in that one. And nobody's to blame for that. It is what it is. The fact that we can even pull off an event right now, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah. By far the hardest thing I've ever done. But you know, if you look at Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje, ridiculous fight and a fight that absolutely makes sense. Khabib versus Tony should be happening, but it should have happened 5 times ago. You know, so you know, I'm starting to believe Joe Rogan that this fight is cursed. And you know, you and I were here 2 years ago having this conversation that the fight was canceled. Yeah. So listen, it didn't work out. This is an incredible main event, and I have a lot of respect for both guys standing up. The co-main event remains the same: Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. We have Greg Hardy versus DeCastro. We have Vincent Luque versus Nico Price. Jeremy Stevens and Calvin Kattar. Ridiculous fight. Francis Ngannou versus Rosenstruik. Uriah Hall versus Jacare, and the list goes on and on. The card is sick, and we're gonna get it done. April 18th, live on ESPN.
You guys have put together cards through very unique circumstances in the past. I don't think anything would even compare to this.
No, nothing. I've never had such a hard time making a fight and getting a venue and keeping everything together.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you can tell us in terms of just like what it took to put together this fight card that you just announced?
Yeah, I mean, it took literally since this thing went down, we've been working every day, all day to get this done. I mean, we've been working nonstop, and it's literally the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
You said that you know, one challenge was that every 2 minutes the world's changing and the challenges are changing. And I mean, we're getting close to April 18th, but you know, we still got 12 days. Is there anything that could happen that would nix this thing at this point?
You know, I would never say no. I mean, I don't even know what is possible with this thing. If you'd have told me a month ago that Las Vegas would shut down and every casino would be, you know, closed for a month, I would never believe that. So anything is possible, but whatever obstacles pop up, we'll try to fix it, man. I'm going to tell you this. I'm this close to getting the deal done. So this place where this fight's going to be on April 18th, I have locked up for 2 months. So I'm going to continue to pump fights out. I've also secured an island. I've got an island. The infrastructure is being built right now. We're going to do all of our international fights on this island. So when April 18th, when we do this fight on April 18th, international and local, you know, in the United States, we're going to start cranking. The UFC will be back up and running, internationally and here in the States.
So April 18th, UFC 249, so literally April 25th, you could have an event.
We are. We're going back to back to back. We're just, we're getting back into our regular schedule. So we will have postponed 3 fights. We'll make all these fights up and we'll be right back on schedule starting April 18th.
And are those cards already together, or is that those cards are under construction?
Under construction, yeah. We're working on them now.
Well, I mean, obviously, one of the biggest questions during all of this is where is the location? Where are these fights taking place?
On ESPN. Live April 18th on ESPN.
Well, that's where people can watch them.
That's
where are
right.
they physically taking place, Dana?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it's happening because nobody can go anyway. Nobody can show up. Nobody can go. There are some members of the media that have reached out to me that want to go. I'll bring them. I'll bring some of these media members that want to go. But other than that, it's not open to the fans, so it's on ESPN. That's it. That's all anybody needs to know.
And why? Why is that? Why? Because I mean, this has turned into a big story just in terms of like how you're able even to pull this off. So why keep the location a secret?
You know, because there's a lot of creepy people out there. You know, and when they find out the location, they start attacking the location and making phone calls. So this keeps the creeps at bay.
So you say that media will be allowed. Are there any like certain precautions that you're taking just in terms of limiting the amount of people that would be there? Like, are cornermen going to be reduced, or is your staff going to be reduced?
Definitely.
Like, what are some of the changes as opposed to like a normal UFC event?
Yeah, so we pulled this event off in Brazil, and it went off without a hitch, and that was at 50 people, and they said you couldn't have more than 50 people. So we worked it out to get less people. Listen, health and safety is a thing that we worry about all the time, not just during the coronavirus. So obviously this has made our jobs a little tougher, but we're going to do everything above and beyond to make sure that everybody's safe that's associated with this event, just like we always do. So yes, a lot of things will be different. My staff, to cornermen, to family members that go to the events, and the list goes on and on.
How did you kind of come to the conclusion of like a health game plan? Like, who did you consult? What were those conversations like? Because again, this is just unprecedented. So how do you even try to put together that sort of game plan to make sure that you're checking every box in a situation?
Yeah. So, we've consulted with our doctor, Dr. Davidson, and who has consulted with many other doctors. And, like I said, the health and safety of not just the athletes, but the athletic commission that will be there, the referees and judges that will be there, my production staff that will be there. I'm going to be there. I'll be there too. We're making sure that everybody's taken care of. We're making sure that we go above and beyond to make sure everybody's safe.
So in my head, I'm trying to figure out where this location is. And so one of the hints you may have dropped there is it will have an athletic commission. You will not be self-regulated for these fights that are happening in the States?
Yeah, there's an athletic commission.
Okay, and they'll be overseeing the event, obviously, just like normal.
Yeah.
Okay. USADA, will they be there to test?
It's going to be just like a normal event, yes. There will be drug testing, the whole deal.
Okay. I mean, one big question, of course, that a lot of people are going to have about this situation is, will these athletes and will the people associated with this event be tested specifically for COVID-19?
Listen, we're going to go above and beyond and do everything that we can to make sure everybody's safe during this event.
Do you feel like going through with this is a risk? Are you as a businessman taking a risk in this?
I'm ready to get back. I think a lot of other people are ready to get back. And I think right now what we need is, first of all, everybody's afraid to be first. Realistically, the only guy right now who isn't afraid is me and Vince McMahon. I mean, Vince McMahon hasn't skipped a beat. But what he did was he found solutions. He found ways to get rid of the crowd, and I'm sure he's doing everything in his power too to make sure that his guys are safe. Everybody else is afraid to be first. Right now, we need leadership. We need people that are going to go out and find solutions. Hiding in your house is not an answer. I get it. We have to do it. The CDC, we followed everything that the CDC has said, right? But at what point do you start to get back to normal? You keep people in their houses for too long with no entertainment, people are going to start losing their minds. And we need to start figuring out solutions. And that's what we're doing. We're going to do this. We're going to keep everybody safe, and we're going to pull this thing off. We're going to make it happen.
And you may have spoke to it there a little bit, but what really is, and maybe I'm sure that there's several aspects of it, but what is the motivation to do this, Dana? Like, it would have been easier for you to just, I think, sit back and say, we're going to let the world play out, and then when it gets to a better place, then we'll figure out a way to resume. You have been very bullish in forcing this to happen, even when challenges have come up. So why are you doing this?
Because I think you have to. First of all, we need to, sports need to happen. It needs to happen. We need to figure out the solutions. How do you make this safe and let it go on? That's what the whole world needs to do. What, are kids never going to go back to school? I mean, I'm here in California. The governor of California came out yesterday and said NFL will not start in September in California. What does that mean for school? There's just so many different things that trickle down. This is sad, and we're going way off base here, but there's a lot of kids in cities that only eat when they go to school. What's happening to those people? What's happening to all the people that have lost their jobs? What are the answers? How do we fix this, and how do we get back to normal? And in my own little world, I'm just trying to figure that out for me. My kids have been in the house and haven't been out and haven't been hanging out with their friends or doing any of that stuff. We've stayed inside like we're supposed to, other than coming back and forth to the office for things that I need. We've done everything that the CDC and the government has asked us to do.
What are some of the other ways that it impacts your business? Can you give us sort of, and I'm sure that this could be a long answer, but can you sum it up for us? I mean, you're losing gates, you're losing like the transportation of people. How is this going to affect your business?
But there's really, it's not about that. Everybody is. The NFL is going to lose gates. The NBA is going to lose gates. All this stuff's going to happen. And when people look at me and they're like, "Oh, this guy's just doing this because he's money hungry," I don't need the money. I didn't need the money 4 years ago. I could have left. I could have left and been gone. And when people say that I'm trying to, this is all about money, I got a great house. I can do this for the next 5 years if they want to, and I have the money. This isn't about money. It's never been about the money for me. I believe that at some point we have to move forward, and the answer isn't we need to stay in our houses till September. That's not a possibility. I just don't think that's a reality it's not going to happen. People aren't going to stay in their houses till September. So how do we figure out solutions? And maybe in my own little world here, if I can make this happen and pull this off, and everybody is safe. I already did it once. Vince has been doing it, and we're going to do it again on April 18th. Then maybe other leagues will, start looking at it and going, well, how do we do this too?
Can you share at all some of the conversations that you may have had with fighters? And one thing that I've seen, a point being made, and some people would agree with it, some wouldn't, but these are elite fights. I mean, these are fights that we've been waiting for a while. I mean, you put together fights that determine the best fighters in the world, and if these guys are training in their garages, are we going to see the same quality of fights that we're used to?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure, but that's something that they need to do right now. I mean, that's a reality of this situation. You need to figure out how to train. You can't have a bunch of training partners. You got to have a guy who's been screened and is healthy. But I don't know. That remains to be seen. The fights in Brazil were awesome.
Yeah. How about transport? How are you planning on getting these fighters to your secret location?
So what we're going to do is we're going to get the fighters somewhere, and we're going to bring them to this location. They won't know where they're headed to.
Okay. Like maybe they'll collect geographically, like if some of them are closer
together? Working on it. We're working on it right now. But there's going to be, definitely some planes involved and things like that, especially for this island when we pull off the island.
Do you feel like there are a couple hot spots in this country, New Jersey, New York, Louisiana? Do you feel like you need to avoid those places, or are you going to continue to pull from guys and girls?
So we're gonna get our doctors involved, get their doctors involved. We're gonna screen people. We're gonna do everything that we can possibly do to make sure that we have healthy people. It's no different than any other event we put on for the last 20 years. We're gonna continue to do what we do. Health and safety is not something that just popped up with the coronavirus with us. This is something we're always focused on.
Yeah. One of the last questions I would have about the protocol of this is what are your conversations been like with Dr. Davidson in terms of these guys they go in and fight, and sometimes they require hospitalization, and that makes some people uneasy because that's where the virus is being concentrated.
We've got that figured out too.
Yeah.
We have all that stuff figured out. These are all problems that we've been working on and trying to solve over the last several weeks on how we do this, and we've got it. It's all put together. It's done. You're not going to pop up with a question that we haven't already thought of. Believe me, we've thought this all out. We've got it all worked out. And I said this before when asked about this. Anybody who shows up to this event and is a part of it will be safer than anybody who's sitting home in their house. They're going to have access to the best medical attention, the best doctors, the best treatment you could possibly get. You're safer being at this event with me than actually being home or going to the grocery store. I promise you that. All these people that are allowed to go to the grocery store, you're going to be a lot safer at my event than you will at the grocery store.
Well, I've got some fight questions for you because that's what I'm used to asking you. But one last thing, you mentioned that you're setting up an island for international fighters, so I'd be remiss to not ask you about that. What's the time frame on that as compared to the April 18th?
I should have the deal done in the next 2 days. So hopefully I have this thing done in the next 2 days. See, I can't keep putting on fights here in the United States I have to put on fights in Europe too, or I'll end up smoking all the talent in the United States.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back and forth between the venue that I have here and the island.
Would it be kind of separated by like U.S.-based fighters would fight here and international fighters would fight there, or could you get them to?
I don't know. We'll see how that all comes together in the next several weeks, but I would imagine we could, yes.
Okay, so Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson, and you attached an interim title to it. Why was the decision made to make it a title fight?
Well, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you have two of the top guys in the world. Everybody felt that, you know, if Conor was going to get a shot at Khabib, that actually Gaethje should get it before Conor. I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better. You get Gaethje versus Tony. It's the fight that makes sense. It's two of the top guys in the world. Khabib is out, so the winner will face Khabib.
Everybody is extremely disappointed about the 5th loss of Khabib and Tony.
Nobody more than me.
But how has Tony taken it? What have your conversations been like for him? And was he pretty accepting to taking this fight?
He was. You know, Tony. I got to give it to him, man. He took it well. He took it really well. It's tough when you're ready to get that fight. You've been waiting for so long, and it falls out. And I know everybody was going crazy on Khabib and saying that Khabib didn't do anything wrong. If you look at the way that the world changed, literally by the day, we got caught up, man, and he ended up getting flown back to Russia. He didn't fly back to Russia. He got flown back to Russia. So it, you know, it sucks, but what are you going to do? We're lucky we're even here we still got Tony and Gaethje, which is a ridiculous fight. It's great. It'll be for the interim title, and we're all going to have to wait again and try to do this thing in September.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and you answered it already, but 2 years ago, we were standing right here, and I asked you, after it fell apart for the 4th time, when Tony tripped over a cable, will you ever try to make Khabib versus Tony again? And your exact words to me were expletives and no, you would never make that fight again. But you're bought into it, you'll make it again.
Well, here's the thing. The people want it so bad. People want to see this fight. People want to see this fight. They want it to happen. Brooklyn sold out in minutes. Minutes. So it's the fight that people want to see. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer.
All right, last question. I'm sure you were anticipating it, but what do you think this does to Conor McGregor? I mean, there was some chatter that he may want to fight in the summer, that he wanted to fight 3 times, but he wanted to see what happened with this fight against Khabib and Tony. What do you think is the impact on Conor McGregor's 2020?
This impacts everybody. I mean, this impacts everybody. You know, there's 3 fights that have already been postponed that we're going to work out over the next several weeks. And I don't know where this puts anybody, you know, because Conor really wants that rematch with Khabib. Well, Khabib and Tony or Gaethje won't fight now until probably September. So, yeah, this you know, nobody saw this coming. This is one of those things you can't predict or see coming, and it happened. But we're rolling with it, and we're gonna get it figured out.
I mean, last question, how do you feel? You just announced that you're going to hold an event during a global pandemic where a lot of people are uncomfortable. A lot of people don't think you should be doing this. A lot of people say, hey, we're quarantined in our homes and Dana White is out there trying to get together fighters at a secret location to have an event. That's dumb. Like, how do you feel about what your team has done this week?
I'm proud of my crew and how hard everybody's worked on this. We could all be sitting at home, you know, relaxing and Netflixing or whatever, however that thing goes, whatever, chilling and Netflixing or whatever it is. I don't do any of that. So I don't know what the term is, but we've been working hard, and I'm proud of my crew. We pulled this thing off, and you know, as usual, I really don't care what anybody thinks.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.